The rain had been falling since dawn, hard, cold sheets that made the streets shine like broken glass. Maya Thompson held her thin jacket tight against her chest as she hurried down the cracked sidewalk, each step splashing through the deep puddles forming near the gutters. Her uniform was already soaked through. The cheap black fabric clung to her like a second skin. She could feel the water creeping down her back, cold and sharp as if the morning itself were punishing her. "Not today," she whispered, breath coming out in shivers. "Please, not today." But the world didn't listen. Her bus, a bus she waited 40 minutes for, had broken down halfway to the city. People had cursed, stormed off, called taxis. Maya didn't have that luxury. She ran. 2 miles through the rain. 2 miles thinking about the power bill on the kitchen counter. 2 miles hoping her little brother Jordan was still asleep and not waking up hungry. Her shoes squished with every step as she turned the corner onto Brighton Avenue. The restaurant where she worked, Keller's Grill, sat at the end of the block, the neon sign flickering blue even in daylight. She glanced at the time on her cracked phone. 7:54 a.m., 6 minutes until the morning shift. But Brian Keller, the manager, didn't care about almost. He didn't care about the weather or broken buses or bills or little brothers who needed care. He cared about control, discipline, rules, and Maya was already on her last warning. Her heart thudded in her chest as she jogged across the intersection, splashing through more puddles. Her curls were drenched, sticking to her forehead. Her hands felt numb, her fingers trembling. She'd been tired before, but today the exhaustion felt bone deep, like life itself had been pressing on her shoulders for weeks, and today it decided to sit down and rest there. She saw the alley behind the restaurant and veered toward it. The back entrance was her only hope. If she snuck in before Brian walked out of his office, she might survive this. "Almost there," she whispered. Her legs burned from running. Her lungs felt tight. But she pushed harder, turning into the narrow alley lined with dumpsters and wet cardboard. Then she stopped. A shape lay near the wall. A dark shape, wrong, out of place, a person. Maya blinked against the rain, unsure if her eyes were playing tricks on her. But as she stepped closer, she saw the outline of a man, shoulders shaking weakly, one hand pressed to his ribs. She froze. He wasn't just lying there. He was hurt. Wait, before we continue, I want you to take a moment to support this channel. By subscribing to this channel right now, like and share this video and tell us where you are watching from in the comments. I want to welcome you personally. Today's shout out goes to Sarah from New Jersey. Here on this channel, you're not just watching stories, you're part of them. Stay with me. Every story is bigger than the last, and I want you to be here when the next twist drops. "Sir?" she whispered, the word almost carried away by the storm. He didn't respond. Her stomach twisted. She stepped closer, slowly this time, afraid of what she might find. His shirt was soaked with rain and blood, not just a little. Enough to mix with the water running down the pavement, turning it pink. "Oh my God," she breathed, dropping to her knees beside him. He looked young, mid-30s maybe. His face was handsome beneath the bruises, sharp jawline, strong features, dark hair plastered to his forehead. His breaths were shallow, shaky, each inhale sounding louder than the rain. "Sir, can you hear me?" His eyelids fluttered, his lips parted. Don't..." His voice cracked, barely a whisper. "Don't call anyone." Maya leaned closer. "You're hurt. You need help." "No, hospital," he gasped, grimacing as pain shot through him. "Not safe." Fear crawled over her skin. Not safe? What did that even mean? Had he been mugged, jumped, shot? She looked around quickly, but the alley was empty. Rain, dumpsters, silence, just her. And him. Her heart hammered in her chest. She needed to get inside. She needed to clock in. She needed this job. Jordan needed this job. Their entire life revolved around her paychecks, tiny as they were. "Please," the man whispered, grabbing her sleeve weakly. "Help! Me!" His grip was barely there, but the plea in his voice hit her like a punch. Maya swallowed hard. Save her job, or save this stranger. Her chest tightened painfully. If she left, he might die. If she stayed, Brian would fire her. He would make sure no other restaurant in the district hired her. He'd done worse to others. She'd seen it. The rain beat harder, like the sky itself was urging her to decide. Her hand shook as she pressed her palm against the man's cheek. His skin felt cold. Too cold. "Okay," she whispered, voice trembling. "I've got you." She hooked her arm under his, trying to lift him. He groaned in pain, body shaking violently. I know," she murmured. "I'm sorry. Just lean on me." It was like lifting a wall. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and heavy with unconsciousness. She was small, drenched and running on fumes. Every muscle in her arms burned. But she didn't let go. One slow step, then another. She gritted her teeth, planting her feet carefully on the wet ground, dragging him toward the back door. The wind whipped her hair into her face. Her shoes slipped. Rain soaked her lashes. Her breaths came out in sharp bursts. "Just a little more," she whispered, though she didn't know if she was talking to him or herself. The man's weight slumped harder against her. His head dropped toward her shoulder. She could feel the tremors of pain in his body. "Hold on," she pleaded, voice cracking. "Hold on, please." She reached the metal door and used her elbow to bang against it. The door swung open, and there he was, Brian Keller. His perfectly ironed shirt, dry and crisp, his hair slicked back like the rain didn't dare touch him, his expression immediately curled in disgust. Maya, what the hell is this?" Maya's voice cracked. "Brian, he's hurt! Please!" Brian's gaze traveled over the man, from the soaked clothes to the blood smeared across his side. His lip curled like he'd smelled something rotten. "You brought a junkie into my restaurant." "He's not." Maya swallowed hard. "He's injured. Someone beat him." "Not my problem," Brian snapped. "Get him out of here." Maya clutched the man tighter, feeling his weight slipping. "He can't even stand, Brian. Just let me get him inside for a minute." "No." Brian stepped into the doorway, blocking her with his entire body. "Absolutely not. We're not turning this place into a shelter." "It's pouring," Maya cried. "He could die." "And I could get sued," he shot back. "Do you have any idea what happens if something goes wrong inside? Insurance? Liability? No, thank you." Maya stared at him, rain running down her face like tears. "You can't be serious right now?" Brian leaned in, lowering his voice to a cold whisper. "I've been more than patient with you, Maya. More warnings than you deserve. And this," he gestured to the bleeding man, "this proves you're not cut out for this job, or any job." He looked at her, and a small, almost enigmatic smile curved his lips. "Maya Thompson," he said, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable authority. "I'm Richard Hale, CEO of Hale Industries." Her breath caught. The man she had dragged into the restaurant, the man she had tended to while risking her job, was the billionaire she had only ever read about. The gravity of the moment pressed down on her chest like a physical weight. You're... she started, but words failed her. "I was attacked outside one of my restaurants that night," he continued, stepping closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "Someone tried to rob me, mate. Someone tried to hurt me. And the woman who saved me," he paused, letting the weight of his words sink in, "was punished for it." Maya felt a surge of shame and disbelief. I didn't know," she stammered. "I had no idea who you were. I was just trying to help." Richard Hale's gaze softened ever so slightly, though the intensity of it never wavered. And that's exactly why you did it. You didn't know who I was, and yet you acted with courage, with integrity. You risked your livelihood for someone in need, someone who couldn't repay you in that moment. Her mind flashed back to the alley, the blood, the fear, and the sheer exhaustion as she had dragged him towards safety. Every pang of guilt for defying Brian Keller now collided with a rush of vindication. She had done the right thing. She had chosen morality over convenience, kindness over self-preservation, and now, standing before her, was the man whose life she had saved. Richard Hale's expression hardened slightly, as if a shadow of anger lingered. And to think, Brian Keller thought punishing you would keep the world in order. He didn't know that morality cannot be bought or silenced. He underestimated you and underestimated the consequences of his own actions. Maya's stomach twisted. You know he fired me? She whispered, almost afraid of the answer. I know everything, Hale replied smoothly. I've been aware of the way he treats his employees, the way he manipulates situations for his own gain. And I've also been keeping track of the woman who showed the courage he lacked. Maya's eyes widened. So, what does that mean? Why are you seeing me now? Richard Hale stepped closer, the city skyline glinting in the background like a silent witness to their meeting. Because, Maya, I want to make it right. Not just for you, but for the principle of it. And I also want to offer you an opportunity, a chance to work alongside me to show the kind of talent, courage, and integrity that Brian Keller and his ilk can't comprehend. Maya's mind raced. This was beyond anything she could have imagined. From a firing that had felt like the end of the world to standing in a penthouse, being personally invited by a billionaire, her life had taken a turn she couldn't have predicted in a million years. I don't know what to say, she admitted, her voice trembling. Say yes, Hale replied simply, his smile now warmer, less intimidating, though still commanding. Say yes, and let's see where courage and integrity can take you. Maya swallowed hard, the emotions of the last few days, fear, despair, frustration, crashing together with an unfamiliar thrill. She thought of her late mother, of Jordan, of all the nights she had spent trying to survive and keep her head above water. And now here was a man who saw her not just for what she was, but for who she was inside. Slowly, she nodded. Yes, I'll do it. Richard Hale extended his hand, and this time it wasn't just a gesture of greeting. It was a bridge between two worlds. Maya took it, feeling the strength and certainty behind it. Good, Hale said, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. Because this is only the beginning. And in that moment, Maya realized something profound. Life could fall apart, yes, but sometimes the very choices that seemed to cost you everything could also be the ones that changed your world forever. Maya barely breathed as she followed Richard Hale through the spacious penthouse office, her mind still trying to process the revelation. The city skyline glimmered outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, but her attention was fixed entirely on the man who had once been a stranger in need, and now wielded the power to rewrite her story. Richard paused by his desk and looked at her seriously, the calm authority in his gaze cutting through the fog of disbelief and exhaustion that had shadowed her days. Maya, after that night, I couldn't stop thinking about you, he said, his voice low, precise. Not just because you saved me, but because of how you did it. You didn't hesitate. You didn't ask questions. You acted with courage and integrity. Maya's throat tightened. I was just doing what I thought was right, she murmured, almost embarrassed that her actions were being singled out. Richard smiled faintly, but it was tempered with intensity. Right? Yes. But the world rarely rewards right, especially in a place where people like Brian Keller operate. He gestured toward the sleek glass wall where the city stretched beyond. That's why I launched an investigation. Maya blinked. Investigation? Yes, Richard said. I asked Marcus Reed, my head of security, to look into that night and the events surrounding it. It didn't take long to uncover a pattern. Brian Keller isn't just petty, he's toxic, bullying staff, lying, sabotaging employees, blacklisting anyone who dared challenge him. Maya felt a hot surge of vindication. Every time a job disappeared after she applied, every smirk or whispered warning she had received, it all pointed back to him. And now she wasn't powerless anymore. He was fired 2 days ago, Richard continued. No warnings, no second chances. His contract, his influence, terminated. Maya's eyes widened. 2 days ago, she whispered. A mixture of relief and disbelief washed over her. She could finally breathe again, finally feel some sense of justice after the crushing weight of Brian's cruelty. Richard's gaze softened slightly. Not only that, my legal team also made sure he stopped spreading lies about you. He can't sabotage your applications, manipulate your references, or try to turn people against you. In short, he has no power over you anymore. For a moment, Maya felt like she might cry. The combination of rage, relief, and vindication made her chest feel tight. All the nights she had spent lying awake, wondering if she had ruined her future, were finally giving way to clarity. Someone had seen her. Someone had recognized her worth. Richard stepped closer, his expression intensifying again. I spent days trying to find you after that night. I asked Marcus to comb through records, search for anyone who might have helped me when I was injured, and then, finally, your name came up. Maya's heart thumped so loudly it felt like it might echo through the penthouse walls. My name? Yes, Richard said, a trace of awe in his voice. The woman who carried me in the rain and didn't walk away. That's what people remembered about you. Your courage, your heart. Maya swallowed hard, her eyes glistening. She had never been acknowledged like this before, not by bosses, co-workers, or even friends. And now, here she was, standing in a billionaire CEO's office, hearing words she could scarcely believe. Richard leaned against the edge of his desk, the city reflected in his dark eyes. Maya, you don't just deserve a chance. You deserve recognition, and more than that, you deserve respect. And I intend to make sure you get both. Maya took a step back, overwhelmed, yet anchored by the sincerity in his words. I don't know what to say, she admitted, her voice trembling. You don't need to say anything, Richard replied. Actions speak louder than words. And the first action I want to take is to make sure you have a place here, where your talent, courage, and integrity are valued, where no one can take advantage of you and no one can silence you. Maya felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She had dreamed of fairness, of justice, of the weight finally being lifted. But this was beyond what she could have imagined. Richard straightened, his expression firm again. Brian Keller made one mistake. He underestimated you. And now the power has shifted. You are no longer at the mercy of people like him. You are at the beginning of something new, something better. And I want to be part of that with you. For a moment the room was silent, except for the hum of the city far below. Maya's mind replayed the past week, the alley, the rain, the pain, the firing, the hopeless applications, the suffocating stress of bills and survival. And now here she was. Justice had been served. Brian Keller's cruelty had no hold over her anymore. And the man she had saved, the stranger whose life she had risked her own to protect, was now offering her more than a job. He was offering validation, protection, and a future she had only dared to imagine in fleeting, desperate dreams. Maya finally allowed herself a small, tentative smile. "Thank you," she whispered, "for believing in me, for seeing me." Richard Hale's own smile mirrored hers, sharp, confident and warm. "No, Maya, thank you for reminding me and the world that courage and kindness still exist, and that sometimes the smallest acts can change everything." Maya felt a rush of warmth, pride, and hope all at once. The storm of the past days had passed, and the city outside seemed brighter somehow, illuminated not just by sunlight, but by the promise of new beginnings. She straightened her shoulders, letting herself feel the shift fully. Brian Keller's reign of fear was over. She was free. And with Richard Hale by her side, there was no limit to what could come next, because sometimes the right choice, made in the darkest moments, could change everything, not just for the person who made it, but for the world around them. And for Maya Thompson, that world was just beginning to unfold. Maya stood in the corner of Richard Hale's penthouse office, her hands clutching the straps of her worn tote bag as if it were a lifeline. Her thoughts spun in a whirlwind of disbelief mingling with exhaustion and the faint, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, her life could change. Richard leaned casually against his desk, a stack of papers beside him, yet all his attention was on her. His dark eyes were steady, observant, and something in their intensity made her feel as though he could see every fear, every doubt, every unspoken dream she had carried quietly in her chest for years. "Maya," he began, his voice calm but commanding, "I want to offer you a position at Hale Industries, more specifically with our foundation." Maya blinked. "Foundation?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She had heard of corporate foundations before, mostly in passing, but had never imagined she would be invited into one, let alone by someone like Richard Hale. "Yes," he said, pushing a folder across the sleek desk toward her. The light caught the embossed letters, Hale Industries Community Outreach Program. Maya's fingers trembled as she reached for it, flipping it open. "You will be our community outreach coordinator," Richard explained. "Your role is to lead initiatives, engage with local communities, and ensure that our programs genuinely make a difference in the lives of those who need it most." Maya's heart raced. It wasn't just a job, it was stability. It was a future she hadn't dared to hope for. "And the compensation?" she asked cautiously, still wary that this might somehow be a mistake. Richard's lips curved into a small smile. "Triple what you earned at your old job, full benefits, health insurance that will cover Jordan as well, job security, career growth, and the chance to make a real impact." Maya's knees went weak. She gripped the folder tighter, her vision swimming as tears pricked at her eyes. She had never been offered anything like this, not in a lifetime of hard work, late nights, and sacrifices for survival. She had been crushed under the weight of bills, unemployment, and the sting of injustice. And now, suddenly, the world had tilted on its axis. I don't know what to say," she choked out, her voice breaking as the first tears fell freely down her cheeks. This is too much. I don't deserve this." Richard stepped closer, his presence calm and grounding. He crouched slightly to meet her gaze, the city skyline behind him casting a golden glow over his features. "Maya," he said gently, "this isn't charity. You changed the course of my life. Let me do the same for yours." She shook her head, overwhelmed. Her hands trembled as she wiped at her cheeks. I've never had someone do something like this for me, for Jordan, for us. I don't know how to accept it." Richard smiled, a mixture of warmth and quiet authority. "Then don't think of it as charity. Think of it as recognition. You acted with integrity when it mattered most, when no one else would. You saved me. Now I'm giving you the chance to build something for yourself, something lasting. You earned this, Maya."
"You've earned every bit of it." Her tears spilled freely now, a mix of relief, disbelief, and gratitude. For years she had struggled, carrying the weight of bills, debt, and responsibility on her shoulders, constantly fighting to survive. And here was someone offering her more than stability. He was offering her respect, opportunity, and a future. I don't know if I can. I'll try," she whispered, her voice quivering. "I'll do my best, I promise." "That's all I ask," Richard said softly, extending his hand. "Your best is enough, and I have a feeling your best will be extraordinary." Maya hesitated for a moment before taking it. The handshake felt symbolic, almost sacred, a bridge between her past struggles and the life she had only dared to dream about. Her heart swelled with a strange, unsteady hope.
The kind she hadn't felt in years. Richard's gaze softened further, and he gestured toward the floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the city. "Maya, this is more than a job. It's a chance to rebuild, to impact lives, and yes, to finally breathe without fear. Take it. You've earned it." Maya nodded, overwhelmed, letting herself lean on that moment, on the unexpected kindness and validation that had entered her life. The weight she had carried for so long, the fear, the despair, the injustice, was lifting, replaced by the first real glimmer of possibility she had felt in years. And in that moment, she understood something profound. Life could be cruel, unforgiving, and relentless. But sometimes the smallest acts of courage, the choice to help, to care, to act without fear, could ripple back in ways that changed everything. Maya Thompson had survived. She had been tested, challenged, and beaten down. But now, with Richard Hale's offer and her own unshakable courage, she was ready to step into a new life, one where her bravery, heart, and integrity would finally be rewarded. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to hope. Maya felt a strange lightness as she left Richard Hale's office that morning. The weight of the past week, the despair, the fear, the constant battle to survive, seemed to lift a little with every step. She had accepted the job. She had a purpose. And for the first time in months, the future didn't feel like a looming threat. Richard met her at the entrance of the building, his sharp suit catching the sunlight as he extended a hand in greeting. But this time, it wasn't a professional gesture. It was warm, personal, inviting. "I thought we could celebrate," he said casually, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. "Dinner, just the three of us. You, Jordan, and me. You are not as employees, but as people I want to know." Maya hesitated, startled by the generosity and simplicity of the offer. That's really kind of you," she murmured, glancing at Jordan, who was already practically bouncing with excitement. "Yeah, that sounds awesome," Jordan said enthusiastically. His usual shyness was gone, replaced by a bright, trusting energy that immediately put Maya at ease. As they walked to the car, Maya couldn't help but notice how natural Richard seemed, how effortlessly he carried himself without the usual barrier of titles or wealth. And yet every glance he cast her way Every subtle gesture carried weight. Weight that made her cheeks warm and her pulse quicken in ways she wasn't prepared to admit. Jordan chattered happily about the city lights and the things he wanted to see, and Richard listened, genuinely interested, asking questions and laughing at the boy's innocent humor. Maya's heart swelled at the sight of her brother connecting so easily with someone she had feared would be distant or intimidating. She tried to focus on Jordan, on keeping her emotions in check, but she couldn't stop herself from noticing Richard's presence beside her. The quiet confidence, the gentle attention, the way he seemed to see beyond her exterior and acknowledge the courage and heart that had led her here. It was disarming. As they approached the restaurant, Richard's hand brushed hers lightly for a moment, a fleeting touch that sent an unexpected shiver up her arm. She quickly looked away, hoping he hadn't noticed, but of course he had. He smiled, that subtle, knowing smile that made her cheeks heat even more. Inside, the atmosphere was warm, the soft glow of chandeliers reflecting off polished tables. Jordan's laughter mingled with the soft hum of conversation, and Maya felt something inside her that she hadn't felt in weeks. Ease, relief, hope. Throughout the meal, she tried to focus on the food, on Jordan, on the laughter that filled the room. But Richard's quiet attention was impossible to ignore. Every time he spoke to her directly, his eyes met hers with a steady, unspoken understanding. And every time she felt her heart thump a little faster, a little louder. As they walked back to the car under the glittering city lights, Richard slowed to walk beside her. The hum of the street around them seemed to fade as he leaned slightly closer, his voice low, sincere. "You didn't just save my life," he said quietly, his tone gentle, almost reverent. "You reminded me what humanity feels like." Maya froze for a moment, a soft smile tugging at her lips. The words settled over her like a warm blanket, filling the spaces in her chest that had been hollowed out by fear and struggle. She glanced at him, her heart racing, her cheeks flushed, and realized that for the first time in weeks, maybe even months, she could smile without guilt, without hesitation, without doubt. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the soft city sounds. Richard's smile deepened, and for a fleeting moment, the world seemed to narrow to just the two of them, her, him, and the faint echo of a bond formed in courage and kindness. As they drove home, Jordan chattering happily in the back seat, Maya allowed herself to lean back in the seat and exhale. For the first time in what felt like forever, she felt safe, supported, and, dare she admit it, seen. Her life had shifted in ways she had never imagined. The future wasn't just a distant possibility anymore. It was here, bright, open, and perhaps, just perhaps, filled with something she hadn't even dared hope for, a connection that went beyond gratitude, beyond opportunity, into something more. Maya Thompson had survived, yes. She had been tested, challenged, and almost broken. But she had emerged on the other side, stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace a life she had once believed was impossible. And as she glanced at Richard Hale, driving beside her with that quiet, steady presence, she realized something profound. Sometimes the smallest acts of courage, the choice to help when it mattered most, could ripple back and change everything. Tonight was not just a celebration of survival. Tonight was a celebration of new beginnings. And Maya, for the first time in a long time, was ready to step into it fully. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.